Once again, good afternoon. Hello, my name is Zach Kershensky. I'm the Customer Success Manager over here at CAT Software. As usual, Jeff Pauline is going to be joining me today, answering questions and hopping on throughout the webinar here as we talk about sending emails through CATs. Also joining me today is Emily Christensen. If you've ever reached out to support with us over here, there's a good chance you've interacted with her. She's kind of our subject matter expert on emailing and specifically getting into some of the custom domain stuff. That's a super helpful tool in CATs, and she will be hopping on later as well. Again, just a couple points before we jump in here today. Just a reminder, this is recorded, so by all means, let's make this interactive. Throw your questions at me, throw your questions at Jeff. We will answer those as best we can during the presentation, or typically we'll speak for about 30 to 45 minutes, then we'll open it up for a Q&A at the end. So if you'd rather save your questions till the end, that's totally fine too. But again, this is recorded and this will go up on our YouTube page probably in a few days. You'll also be emailed a copy of this recording tomorrow afternoon. I think it takes about 24 hours for that to process and get a link generated. So yeah, you'll be emailed a link to this as well if you ever want to go back and review it. That's one of the cool things about doing these is obviously we want to be able to answer your questions. It's nice to have these sort of longer presentations as opposed to the 2 or 3 minute kind of tutorial videos that we have. But then again, if you ever want to go back, kind of get the long story on some of the features and tools within CATs, that's why we record these and put these out on the web. All right, Emily, Jeff, you guys with me? We ready to do this thing?
I'm ready.
Let's do it.
All right, cool. So today, very timely topic. We're going to hop into emailing through CATs, and I will start off by saying, and this is why I'm not a sales guy anymore, so to speak. CATs has email tools within the system. We are not a full functioning email client. So we're going to go over some of those tools that we have in the system, but just kind of keep in mind, as we start to jump into the really nitty gritty, really heavy, email this, email that kind of stuff. There's going to be some areas where we're a little bit light as far as what we can and can't handle. But that's where we start to talk about some direct integrations that we have with like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp. Platforms out there that's what they do. Right? They are totally dedicated to being an email marketing, email service, email platform, for lack of a better word. But again, lots of stuff that you have in CATs, and that's what we're going to cover today. So for sure, we're going to talk about sending individual emails. Within those emails, tags, and you'll see what's called the regarding field. That really ties into your workflow and letting candidates know, or at least your other users know, that a candidate is associated with a certain job and that they've been contacted about that job. Templates, using email templates is huge within the system. And one of the questions we get a lot is how to include images in your emails that go out. So we'll discuss that a little bit. We're going to talk about workflow email triggers, which we've covered pretty extensively in the other webinars, but all of these subjects kind of intertwine with each other in certain spots. So we'll hop into that. Scheduling emails is a really cool feature where you can send those out a week from now, 2 weeks from now, set kind of a custom date for those. Then we're going to hop into the big topics of sending mass emails, some of the tools involved with those. And then at that point, we're going to have Emily hop on and really dig into the custom email domain piece. And then we'll talk a little bit about best practices for sending emails out of the system. And we'll dive in a little bit as far as third-party email integrations that we have. So I'm going to pause the screen here for just a little bit, and we're going to hop over into a demo version of CATs, and we will get rolling here. And again, as we do this, feel free to send your questions through the questions section and go to webinar. We'll do our best to answer those as we go. And then of course, at the end, we'll do a quick Q&A as well. All right, so here we go. Sending an email within CATS can be as easy as, if I'm out on my dashboard and I just want to hit the green plus sign up here at the top, and I'm going to say plus as in create an email. 2 clicks, I know, pretty wild. So I won't go through field by field what all the different things here mean necessarily. The regarding field I'm going to talk about once we sort of reverse engineer this and bring this email up through a candidate profile. One thing to remember, any email that's sent through CATS to more than one person is going to be BCC'd. So blind carbon copy, meaning the recipient is going to see their address listed as it being sent to them, but they won't see that it was sent to anyone else. So even if you do send an email out to 10, 15, 20 people, however many, they're only going to see it as addressed to them. That's not a setting you can toggle within CATS. That's just kind of the default and only behavior that we have for any multiple emails within the system. I'm not going to explain to you what the subject of an email is. So here's kind of how you can get to it just in general. Let's say I've got Jeff's profile brought up here, and let's say I want to send Jeff an email. One way I can do that within the system, over here on the right, I've got this action panel set up. So if I want to send him a text message, if I want to log an activity, you've got all these different actions over here on the right. But specifically, I want to send him an email. So that's what this icon is right here. Click email. Pretty similar to what we saw before. A couple differences though. One, they're automatically going to be entered in the to field. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit was the regarding field. So when we talk about your workflow and your different statuses within your workflow and letting the system know that a candidate has been contacted about a specific job, that's where this regarding field kind of comes into play. So any jobs within your system are going to be listed here. Any jobs that they're in the pipeline for will be sort of elevated in that space. But this basically tells the system, I emailed Jeff about this job so that 2 things. One, if I want to include tags that say, let's say the job title, what company the job belongs to, I can include that information in the email and that'll generate automatically. That'll come into play when we talk about tags here in just a second. It will also let the system know automatically it's going to put Jeff in the pipeline for that job, and it's going to move them to what's called a contacted status. And we can talk about workflow kind of all day, but in an example workflow, and I'm going to hop over there right now. In an example workflow, typically there's going to be a status where the mapping is contacted. So right now, if I send Jeff an email with this warehouse associate job as the regarding field, it's automatically going to put them in the pipeline for the job. It's also going to put them in the contacted status. So again, we're kind of branching off a little bit from the emails piece, but that is a very, very important field when you start tying some of those jobs together, some of the workflow statuses together. All right, tags are a big thing I wanted to talk about. So there's a couple different ways that you can use tags as far as what the UI is going to look like within the system. As we're writing kind of like this one-off email, or just we're in this sort of standalone email page, it works like this. I've got a button right here that says add tag. So let's say in the subject line, I'm going to say, seasons greetings from, and I cannot spell and talk and type at the same time. I'm sure you guys know that if you've talked to me before. Seasons greetings from Cat Software. And then I want to start the email by saying, I want to start it by saying, Dear Jeff. But let's say I'm sending this email to multiple people. That's where I can use a tag. So I come up right here, I hit add tag. And the second one down here says recipient first name. Dear first name. So when Jeff gets that email, it's going to say Dear Jeff. And let's say, blah, 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 blah. Here's my email. At the bottom of it, I've probably already got my signature built into the system, which, gosh, didn't even make my list of topics, but I'll show you guys that here in a moment. But let's just say I want to include a tag that says my name or the company I work for or my email address, my phone number. All of these different tags, 239 different potential tags that you can use for now until we add more as part of the email system. So again, it can involve you, it can involve the candidate's name, jobs, companies, contacts, you name it. Pretty much any field that's in the system can be included as a tag. And I'll show you a template that I have built out that kind of uses some of those too. So templates are made by typing in an email like I've done so far. And then you have this drop down up here at the top where I can save what I've typed so far as a template. I don't want to save that. That's a bunch of junk that I typed in there. But let's say I want to load a template after I've saved it. I hit load, and it's going to show me a list of templates. One question we get asked quite a bit, this is a shared sort of list of templates. So no matter who made the template within your system, if you've got multiple users, everyone's going to be able to view and use these. So, here's one that I made earlier today. And again, we're using sender name, sender company, sender email. So that's going to say my name, it's going to say my company, it's going to have my email address at the end there. And of course, this is dear first name. So then it's going to say Dear Jeff. And if I want to add, an additional recipient, let's throw Steve on there. It's going to say Dear Steve to the email that he gets. So that's how you use some of those tags. One of the other places, and again, one of the things that we get asked about quite a bit is images. How do I include a picture in my email? It's not a thing where, like on Outlook, for example, it's going to say, okay, upload this image from your computer, and we'll throw it in this email. Cats is a little bit different, where the image itself needs to be hosted online, and then you link to that image via this button right here. It's going to pop up a window that asks for your URL. I'm going to switch out the share here just a moment. So let's say I want to include whatever, this picture of Elf within the email. Your web browser, you're going to have different options, but a lot of times you can do something as simple as copy image address. And it's going to give you a direct link to where that image is hosted. Not typically recommended to just grab it off a random website. They might have hot linking disabled. They might have, the picture might be gone tomorrow. So typically we say host the images yourself if you can. On your company website, there's a multitude of free image hosts out there. I know Google Photos does a good job, Dropbox does a good job. They're all going to have their own sort of ways to link directly to those images. All we ask for is a direct link to the image, and there's an example you can kind of see down there. It ends in what? w3schools_green.jpg. That's kind of how you grab a link directly to an image. Now, one thing to kind of consider though, when we're talking images and emails, a lot of times what you'll get is something like this when the email actually comes through. Gmail, I think Outlook, a lot of, I would say the majority of email clients out there disable images by default. So that's one of the things when we get into the best practices section, we'll talk about. If you cannot include images, try to avoid it, because it does take an extra click for them to view it. They have to say that they trust you. There might be some security stuff going on. That's an example here. I love the Prosper Stack people. They're great. They include an image and it's just not appearing right away until I click to load it. It's pretty common practice to include those images, but it's just one where in practice, if you can avoid it, maybe try to, especially on something where you may not have, you're not emailing this person daily, right? This is sort of a reach out email. Boom, your image didn't load, and now you're already kind of strike one right off the bat. So again, not telling you anyone how to do their job, but in best practice from what we've seen so far, including images may not be the best thing to do. All right, gonna hop back over to cats. And yeah, that was one where I had sort of the image brought up here. And again, same thing, I'm just gonna right click the image and I've got, oh, it's not showing me the menu. Okay, well, fair enough. But anyway, copying the image URL. And if you have any questions on that, Emily, Jack, myself, we're happy to sort of get you pointed in the right direction in that space. But yeah, ultimately you would just grab that URL, copy the address, paste it into cats. And there we go. Okay. I'm gonna go back over to my outline here. Give me one moment. Okay, beautiful. All right, so now, for the most part, that is sending individual emails. If I want to send a one-off email to somebody, if I want to include an image, if I want to get them going in the workflow, it's going to be in the regarding. That's how we load templates. Did quickly want to mention workflow emails. So again, let's say, and this is one of the biggest parts of cats, you guys, if you aren't familiar with workflow, please check out our knowledge base, check out the training videos that we have on workflow. But let's say I'm looking at the digital marketing specialist position here, and I am going to change the status of this Zach guy from new candidate over to, let's say something else. Let's say phone screen. Let's say I want to schedule a phone screen. As a result, I want to send this email out to them. All the same things we talked about so far applies, including those tags, building out those email templates. These emails, however, are built in a little bit of a different spot. So as an admin, you're going to come up here, workflow. And I kind of hopped over here earlier. And we'll just go with this general one for now. So basically what I'm saying right now is on a specific email, on a specific status, what I can do is add a trigger. Let's put it on, let's say, we're gonna add one to the sent CC email. I hit that green plus sign and then boom, same type of interface where I can say to whom the email is gonna go. Here's a subject line. All my formatting options are there. The tags are still here as well. They just kind of live over here on the right instead of an add tag button. So if I want to include the candidate name here, I can say dear, and then I'm just clicking and dragging over into the space. And this is one where I can use like the candidate's email address as a tag as well. So candidate email goes in the to line. And I can say interview for, and then something along the lines of job title. So you kind of get the idea. Is I can build out those email templates, and then those are sent as a trigger. Those are sent as a result of me changing the candidate status. All right. One other thing to kind of mention here is scheduling an email. By default, that email is going to go out right away. Right away, that email is going to go out. Now you can specify, let's say I have an email set up that is a decline notification, a rejection letter, if you will. And, you know, my recruiters are really on top of it and they got feedback right away, but so we're changing the status right away, but we don't want the candidate to get an email before they even get home from the interview. So let's schedule that thing out the next day at 9 a.m. or the next afternoon at 1 p.m. or specify. You can set a date up to 2 weeks in advance to send those emails out. So you'll see that schedule section within the email from there. All right, I'm gonna hop over to the questions real quick, just because I know I saw a few coming through, and I want to answer the ones that are relevant to the topic at hand here.
We got some really good ones.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to send the answers to the whole group just so they can see. Rachel's question was funny. Is recruiting memes an added bonus?
Oh,
yes, you got some bonus memes with this webinar, but we had a question about email sequencing. It is something we really want to do. And I was going kind of back and forth with Mike a little bit here and asking for some more information. Something we struggled with email sequences. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, it's, you know, you send an email and you enroll that candidate in kind of a sequence of emails. So after a certain period of time, they would get a follow-up email. Some people want to go further and use like opens and clicks. If they open the email, then they get another email. We've struggled with kind of the reliability of that, but it sounds like all Mike is really looking for is just a timed thing. You know, if after 3 days or after 7 days, if the candidate doesn't answer, they get a follow-up email. If they do answer you, obviously you can go and cancel that sequence and get them out of there. So it's definitely something we want to do. It's something that a lot of CRMs do, like Salesforce and things like that. And unfortunately, it's not possible with the workflow right now, but it's been on our radar for a while. And this suggestion from Mike kind of brought it back up to the surface. So we'll definitely consider adding that. I'm looking at, we had another question about custom email domains, or deliverability issues. Really, the thing you can do for that is to set up a custom email domain. I linked to the help article there. It is somewhat technical. I'm not going to pretend that I really know how to do it, but
that's why Emily's here today.
Emily's here, and Jack and Emily can help them if you run into any issues. Reach out to support. They'll walk you through it.
Awesome. And Rachel brings up one thing too that I mentioned I was going to bring up earlier, but I did not, and that was your signature that goes out with the email. So when you're sending an email via a workflow trigger, there's a checkbox right here. So you can specify to whom the email is from. And then there's also a checkbox right here that says, okay, let's go ahead and also throw on the email signature for that user. So that's how that can and can't go. That's a setting that you can toggle on and off. As far as going in and setting your email signature, that's where you're going to click on your icon up here. We'll go to My Profile. And right down here is email signature. So if I click that edit icon, again, images can be included in it, not typically best practice to do so, but you're free to do so. And then, yeah, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll sort of get like the source code for their email signature. and there's a handy option right here where you can copy and paste the actual HTML of your signature, so it's an exact match. Or feel free to kind of create your own. There's all kinds of size and other options that go on over here. So, but yeah, those will go out. That signature will be included in the one-off emails that you send, or the standalone emails rather, and then you check the box to make them be included or not in the workflow emails that go out. All right, cool. Well, guys, we're pushing for time here, so I want to make sure we get all your questions answered. I also want to have some time at the end for kind of a Q&A. So we're going to push forward here. One of the big things I wanted to talk about today was doing mass emails through the system. So first, I'm going to show you how to do it, and then we're going to talk about setting up your custom email domains, and then we'll kind of dig into some of the best practices in doing so. So within CATS, the mass email is just going to be another mass action that you can take. So just like if I want to run a search and add candidates to a pipeline, or put them on a list, email is sort of the exact same thing. So again, anytime I'm just on the grid here, be it within a pipeline, be it out on the candidate screen, and as I start checking some of the names here, I've got my actions bar that heads up at the top, and then I've got email. And we talked about this, right? So here's the screen where you'll see all the recipients. You can load your templates, edit the email, add tags, schedule it out. Everything we talked about so far still comes into play when we're doing the mass email as well. Now, there are some built-in email tools within the system. So if you want to kind of check the performance a little bit of your mass emails that you're sending out, say you're working on, kind of like a marketing campaign, things of that nature. If you click on more over here on the left and go to emails, you will see a list of the standalone emails that have been sent out of your system. If there's more than one recipient, you'll see just kind of a number here. And then there's some pretty cool tools. So when you click within an email, and I just happen to have this one open from before. When you click into one of those emails, you can see stats on opens, clicks, bounces, unsubscribes, and spam. Jeff kind of mentioned these numbers aren't super accurate because, especially when we start to talk about opens. Not to get too technical, but any email that comes out of CATS has a 1 pixel by 1 pixel, just the tiniest possible image that's included in it. And that image loading is what signifies that the email was opened. Now, trouble with that sometimes is that, as I mentioned, images don't always, and usually they don't at all, load by default. So someone could have opened your email, but because images don't load according to their settings, we won't register as that as an open. And so when we started talking about doing kind of like some of the sequencing, and okay, if someone opens by email, do this, it's not a super reliable stat. So we're still kind of working on that piece for sure. Typically what we recommend in looking at opens versus clicks and bounces and things like that is, maybe you're doing some A/B testing, right? So message A I sent to 100 people and 38% of people opened it. Message B I sent and 70% of people opened it. So yeah, B is the preferred, sort of message maybe that we want to work with moving forward. Because again, down to the individual user, this isn't always super accurate, but it's, the bigger sort of email campaign, the more people you email, the more potentially kind of accurate stats you start to have when you're looking at the big picture. It also tracks email opt-in and opt-outs. So by default, and there's no way around this one either, anytime you send out a mass email, and frankly, I'm not even sure what the magic number is, but once you start sending it out to multiple people, we do include an unsubscribe link at the bottom of the email. That just, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that there's some legal precedent for that, and where you have to sort of allow the recipient to unsubscribe to those emails that you send out. If you ever want to go in and view those opt-in, opt-outs, it's the same kind of thing. You go to emails, and there's a drop down here in the upper right. If you ever want to view any upcoming scheduled emails, you can sort of view those from that drop down. A list of bounced addresses, as well as anyone that's either opted into your emails or has opted out. If you have any more, sort of specific questions on those, let us know. I don't have any good data in this one right here, but if you ever want to give someone a link to opt in or opt out manually, those are going to be located down at the bottom of the page here as well.
The magic number is 10 recipients.
Yeah, if I wasn't going to say the magic number, I know the magic number.
just bring it up because we had somebody ask it too, and they were like 500. I was like, that would be a lot. Unfortunately, it is 10 or more. So, and that's required by law to have that opt-out language in there. So, I'm not telling you how to bend the rules, sending emails to 9 or less, but the magic number is 10.
There you go. All right, cool. All right, so that is physically how you do a mass email. Doesn't mean let's just take our entire database and spam them with an email message, which we'll dig into here in a little bit. But there's already been a few questions that have come across with emails hitting junk and spam folders and things like that. And that is a great opportunity for Emily to hop in and talk a little bit about custom email domains. So let's see. I will guess that you're going to want this slide brought up. Yep.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, and
there we
go. All right, Emily, all you.
All right, thanks. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I've seen a few questions pop up. We get this question a lot in support. Email is going to spam, automatically going to junk. What you can do about it. Email is a pretty complicated topic. On the technical side, it's a science and an art. We're going to talk about, like, in my section, the science side, like the concrete things you can do. And well, the concrete thing, the number one thing you can do to make sure your emails are getting through, and that's set up a custom email domain in CATS. A custom email domain is taking your domain. So for example, let's say you're at bestrecruiters.com. So your domain is anything after the @ symbol in your email address. So at bestrecruiters.com, your email would be bestrecruiters.com. That's your domain. And you set that up, and you kind of plug it into CATS. We can kind of show you that there. And it uses 3 different record types: DKIM, SPF, and CNAME. I'm not going to get into the technical of what each of those do, but basically what they all do is they're a system. The internet got together some time ago and said, hey, how can we stop people from spamming and spoofing and tricking people? And how can we have authenticated emails coming in and people know that they're safe? So these records let email providers and your recipients providers know that the emails you're sending are legitimate. There's a thing called spoofing, and that's when you can take an email address. So I can say like emily@google.com, and I can send it out from somewhere and make it look like I'm from google.com. But if I don't have these records authenticated, then it's going to get flagged. And that is what you are essentially doing in CATS. Because you're sending it out from within CATS, it's letting the recipients know that, hey, this is coming from a place that's not your actual inbox, but it's authorized. And so that is the best way to get your emails in the right place. And it's a great benefit. We highly recommend it. A lot of softwares are looking at making it mandatory. It's not mandatory, but we highly recommend it, and it's the best thing. It's always the number one step we recommend for anyone to improve their deliverability. Zach, if you want to pull up that other one, actually, if you want to pull up Kitten, maybe then we can kind of show them how to get there. That might be better. Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Yeah, if you want to show them how, so you just go to your settings. If you have to be an administrator, kind of like the workflow, and head over to administration, and then should be in the middle section there, kind of towards the bottom. It's custom email domain there. You click on it, And I believe we have a non-working example here. So if you have nothing set up here, it'll be a little bit different text, and it'll say enter your domain. And so what you want to do, so we have just Cats One demo. You just want to enter. Yeah, go ahead, go for it.
We'll start from scratch here.
Configure. That's the button. All right. And so you just enter your domain. So for my example before, it was, bestrecruiters.com. You just want to put bestrecruiters.com right there. You don't want the at. You don't need the www. Some people do that. It can work. That's called a subdomain in this context, and we can use it. That's a more advanced thing. We probably don't need to dive deep into, but we do support adding a subdomain. But yes, that's exactly how it should look. Just bestrecruiters.com, and then you'd hit continue, and it would automatically populate some entries for you. And then the part that's difficult about custom email domain is, we kind of give you this to kind of plug into Cats, but the majority is going to be done outside of Cats, and therein lies a bit of the snag in the process. So this is kind of an example of what it would look like if everything is set up. These are the entries. You'll see these 3 entries. These will auto generate for you. You're going to take these with these host names or names, and then the value, each column, and you're going to add those to your DNS provider settings. Your DNS provider is who manages your domain. So bestrecruiters.com, who manages that? Sites like GoDaddy, Wix, of that nature, you'd have to go into their settings, create these records in there, and then add these Cats values. Now, we know how it works with Cats. You know how every software is a little bit different. Every DNS provider sometimes needs a little bit of, for example, GoDaddy likes their names formatted a little bit differently. And the best way to do this is just go ahead and give it a try. It's going to look unverified, kind of how you saw before. And then there's that verify settings button up there. If you click that, that's just basically your checker. So it's going to check to make sure that everything in your DNS provider, outside of Cats, looks good. It's not going to, I wish it were a magic verify button. That would be fantastic. But it's just going to check. And if it still comes up as unverified, that essentially means your domain isn't going to work. So in that case, we say just reach out to us at support. The best thing you can do is just take a screenshot. So not of this, what we're seeing right here. We have access to this in Cats. We have a great article to kind of get you to Squarespace, to get you to GoDaddy. That's the best place to go for, that side of it. Unfortunately, we don't have access to your third-party accounts, and we're not the best. We're not the authority on the best way to navigate GoDaddy. That we have these guides for you to kind of get there. But if you have everything from Cats and you got it all entered and it's still kind of that yellow, take a screenshot of GoDaddy, of Wix, whatever you have, send it to Cats, and we will take a look at it. We're pros by now, so we can give you an exact adjustment, and you can copy and paste that right back in. And that's always the fastest way. Sometimes it does require a bit of a back and forth, and we'll have to sometimes, every once in a while, there's a tricky case where we have to take a few extra minutes, but we can usually get you going pretty fast once we have your screenshots. So yeah, a little bit of the back and forth there, because unfortunately we don't have your information, outside of Cats, except we have this. But once that's set up, then you should be, ready to go. The one thing we caution on is, so if you set up, for example, cats1demo.com, you want to make sure that's matching the email address in your profile in Cats, if you go that you're sending email from. So for the vast majority of our users, if you want to pull up Kitten, that's going to be what it kind of is automatically. So you go to my profile, like Zach is here, excuse me, and you want to make sure, so in this case it doesn't match, but you want to make sure that domain matches the domain you're setting up. There too many tabs.
Where's that setting?
Yeah, I've been there, too many tabs. But you want to make sure that domain matches. So setting this up lets your mail providers know that it's legitimate. And sometimes without it, some email what happens is either the email will be rejected outright if you don't have custom email domain, or it'll be sent, but it's filtered to junk or spam automatically. Either of those can happen. Honestly, mail providers, Gmail, everyone, they're clamping down. They're getting more strict. So they're getting more severe with these limits and these restrictions. However, if you have an unmatching, so let's say that Zach did send out from @cats1.com, but he configured for cats1demo.com, that's going to be an automatic reject almost every time. You want to make sure it matches, because then the system is going to go, hey, they said this works from this specific domain, but they're sending it from this one that doesn't match. That's going to be an automatic reject. It's not even going to make it to the spam. So that's one thing you want to be sure of. You can only do one custom domain at a time. So we recommend, if you've got multiple, that's not something we have the capability for right now. If you've only got one, great, set it up. If you've got multiple, oftentimes it can be worse if you're trying to send it from, if you have some recruiters working from one domain and one from another, because the ones that don't match aren't going to get deliverability almost at all. So that's the kind of caveat to this. But once you have it set up, you have all of your domains matching in your profile for all of your users, you should be good on that end. And I think Zach will have more about best practices. That's more the art side of deliverability, and this is the custom domain is more the science side, the hard things you can do.
And neither one is exact, unfortunately, but
yep, of course.
Awesome. Well, cool. Hey, finally, that is great. Thank you so much. Yeah, she's been knocking these out for, a couple of years at this point, with folks writing in, and as she mentioned, if there's any sort of question of, is this email going to hit my spam, their spam folder or their junk folder, take a few minutes, hop over into your settings on your web host, and ultimately just get in touch. Like I said, this is something that our support team is working with quite a bit. Hit that question mark up there. Shoot us an email, and we're happy to get the ball rolling with you on that. Also wanted to echo her point. It's not required right now. There's a good chance it will be at some point moving forward. That's the way things are kind of moving at this point. So, if you want to, kind of cross that box, or, cross that item off your list, before it appears, go for it. Because yeah, I think at some point we'll probably start requiring this for CATS users. Could be a month from now, could be a year from now, could be multiple years from now. But I do imagine at some point, through email out of the system, you'll need to get those custom domains in line. So, but yeah, shoot us an email and we'll get started there. Thank you so much, Emily.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. We've done these, we've seen it all, almost it all. I shouldn't jinx myself, but yeah, we'd be happy to help with. And if you got a screenshot, send it right away, and we'll get you going.
All right, now the fun part, or not so fun part. Look, we're not an expert at this. I am a guy that works on the customer side of an applicant tracking system. I am not a marketer. I'm definitely not a lawyer, but just based off of this will be my 7th Christmas working at CATS and seeing holiday emails come through. We have a pretty good idea of some do's and don'ts when we start talking about mass emails that come out of the system. So just a quick kind of rundown of these. Absolutely check out anti-spam laws in your area. It varies even by state sometimes. It absolutely varies by country. So, please check in with those, before you send things out of your system in a mass fashion. We do integrate, I mentioned before, with MailChimp, with Constant Contact. It's one where I can say, hey, let's export all of these people over into this platform, and then let's let those services kind of handle the emails from there. Do absolutely implement a custom email domain. That's what we just talked about. Deliverability is going to go up significantly, or at least it should, once you get that in place. This one I wanted to spend a little bit of time on. Do create a curated list of recipients. We've had a couple different webinars now where we've talked about searching and filtering within CATS. That's where you can use a lot of that as well, right? It's not just screening for specific jobs and things of that nature, you can also use those searches and filters to kind of narrow down, to whom do I want to send these emails. So let's say, for example, I'm in my candidate database. I've got 2,599 candidates that are in here. So let's narrow that down. So I can add one that says, for example, updated. Date candidate was last updated. It is after, and then let me just throw a date in there of January 1, 2020. So now I'm down to 2,341. So I've got what, roughly 150, 200 people in here that haven't been touched in over 2 years. Maybe they care, maybe they don't care that I got it, that I sent them, a mass email. Maybe I've got people that are in a country that I can't work with. Maybe I've got people that have opted out. I mean, there's all kinds of lists and filters that you can sort of do from here to narrow down who you're going to email. Keep in mind, you're allowed 2,500 emails per user per month within CATS, and that's sort of pooled together. So if I have 2 people in my system, I can send out 5,000 emails. If I have 4 people, I can send out 10,000. So, depending on how many users are in your system, we're giving you a pretty long leash as far as sending out, those mass emails. But when we start talking about email reputation, emails going into junk folders, spam folders, things like that, the more people that through our mail server, the more emails that hit someone's spam folder, the more times someone marks you as spam, the more times an email is undeliverable, the more it actually hurts both of us in terms of your email domain that it's kind of sending from, as well as overall just the emails that get sent out of CATS. We sort of end up in this email jail type of scenario sometimes that you don't want to be in. So again, use your filters, kind of think about it a little bit before you send an email blast out just to your entire database, because again, it's going to be more targeted, it's going to be more personal, it's going to be more effective versus just hi, random person that's in my database that applied for a job 8 years ago that I've never spoken with, right? So it's just kind of keep that in mind. All right, let's hop back over to the list here. And again, most of this has been covered so far, but on the don't side, don't email your entire database, please. Don't rely on images and HTML, in those emails. Simple is good. We talked about images not potentially loading. HTML is also blocked quite often in emails that go through, so something to keep in mind. Do try to have some type of response or some type of action in lieu of just, top of mind. And then try not to send a one-size-fits-all type of message. We've got some pretty cool stuff in CATS, right, where you can differentiate candidates and contacts within the system. So, maybe the email that you send out to your candidates is different than the people that you're working with in HR that are your hiring managers and things like that. So, maybe craft a couple different messages for them. Break it down by location, break it down by people you've placed versus people you've interviewed. I mean, there's all kinds of little filters that you can do. So, again, it's just like recruiting. The more personal you can make it, likely the more effective and the better it's going to be. And that's the last I'm going to preach to you about how to send an email for now. The one last thing I wanted to show you guys before we open it up for a Q&A is some of those integrations that we talked about. So, again, as an admin, go to settings, administration, and then there's a spot up here for integrations. And this is where, if you have a constant contact, or if you have, a MailChimp subscription, just click configure over in these spaces here, and it's going to ask for your login. And yeah, basically what happens, it's a way for you to send emails from, send information on people from CATS over into those services, and then have kind of handle the email from there. Again, that's what Constant Contact does. That's what MailChimp does as far as their main business model is when you talk about email deliverability, when you talk about cost effectiveness, if you're doing things in larger numbers, those are great sort of platforms to lean on, that we're happy to help you with the handoff to those platforms. So, all right, that is what I have so far today. Jeff, you want to hop on and answer a couple questions, and I will take a little drink of water, and I'll join you here in a moment. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right.
I've got one question here about they just created their email signature. How can I add it to the email? It should just be there when you go to compose an email. You should see your signature at the bottom of the panel. The reasoning why some emails are not marked open, because we rely on a teeny tiny image in the email, and if their mail client, Gmail or Outlook or whatever, doesn't allow images, then we really can't tell if that email was opened. So that's why it is a little unreliable, but that's really all we can do to determine if something was opened. Let's see. Any issues with sending a link but not an image? No, not really. Images should get flagged, or could get flagged and treated differently, or emails with images in them could be treated differently than a regular email, but links should be okay.
Just want to add there, Jeff. Sometimes we have seen there are issues if you link to a site that's been, if you happen to link to a site that's been reported as like a spam site, some filters can pick up on that. But if you're linking to normal things, that shouldn't be a problem. But it's something to keep in mind that sometimes blacklists will grab URLs, and that can affect the overall email not being delivered. But that's pretty rare. But it can happen from time to time.
Like Bitly or like some URL shorteners that are out there sometimes where you can mislead. Yeah.
Sometimes, as Zach said, sometimes we get into email jail, and from some of our customers sending emails that maybe bounce, a lot of bounces, and it has happened with the CATS domain in the past. So that was a bit of a thing we had to work out. So it was like the cats1.com domain was one that got blacklisted. So that's how we kind of found out about that. But not the case anymore. It was just a little blip. But yeah, it can happen if you do link to a site that happens to be blacklisted. Again, rare, but possible.
Yeah, that's good to remember. Yeah, sometimes link shorteners and certain websites, but generally, if you're just going to link them to your job on your CATS career portal, you should be okay.
Yeah, you should be good.
Another demonstration of adding an email to a template, it's really as simple as you compose the email, and then there's up at the top of the page, there's a save button, and you can save it as a template. Then if you come back to it later, you can load that same template. I guess it's the template drop down up at the top. So whatever you type here, you would click templates and save it. That's how you would do that. And then the last question actually is, can I add a logo to my signature for emailing? Yeah, you definitely can. Like Zach has said, emails with images in them can be treated differently. Nothing's stopping you from doing it. You would want to host that logo somewhere. I'm guessing, your logo is probably on your website somewhere, which is a good place to pull it from. So it'd just be like adding any image to an email. You would start composing the email, click the add image button. You need to get the source of the image, which looks like a URL. I think we have a help article on this too. Let me see if I can find it, and I'll throw it into chat. But Yeah, you can do it. A lot of people do have logos and things in their email signatures. Just be warned that it potentially could affect deliverability. But that's kind of your choice to make. But I'll throw a message into the question section here with a link to that help article. But yeah, that's all the questions we have.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that will just about wrap it up for today then, guys. Thank you so much. Again, this email is going to go out. I'm sorry, a link to this recording will go out tomorrow afternoon. Typically takes about 24 hours, so keep an eye out for that. As always, if you ever need anything, question mark is right there. We've got a really built out knowledge base. We've got really built out training videos. Among those are previous webinars that we've been doing for the last almost year or so, I think at this point, are up there. And then feel free to shoot us an email, and we will be happy to get back to you. Emily and Jack are on top of it. They will get back to you very quickly. And if we don't speak to you, before then, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and we will see you again in January. Topic TBA, but as always, we appreciate you spending your Tuesday afternoon with us. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.